weekend was fun. It was beach, kind of our home away from home's Wrightsville Beach. That's right by Raleigh here, a place there. So boat, Masonboro Island, surf, fish, fun. This weekend, back to the reality with kids in school of soccer games, football, a lot of a lot of running around this weekend. So not as much.
Did your oldest just start high school?
Yeah, he's a freshman, and so that's a pretty big deal with football and cross country and all that. It's a new world for us, and it hurts not, as you know, not having them at the same school. Potentially, it's not as easy. So
Yeah, we're running 3 kids to 3 separate schools in the morning. My wife and I are taking separate duties there.
that's a job in itself.
Yeah, and they're on opposite ends of the town.
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I can't get over our 14-year-old is a freshman as well, and he went from being like super antisocial and whatnot to all of a sudden and hating school to all of a sudden, oh, I'm really liking school right now. My teachers are cool, and like, where did this kid come from?
Yeah, what caused that
great
change?
when it clicks.
I don't know. The right mix of people, I guess.
Yeah. Usually the first year of high school, it's the opposite. You want to be cool and you get less into grades and everything.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Jeff, you got anything going on?
No. Nope. Probably working on my daughter's truck for a little while.
Oh, yeah. That'd be fun.
Oh, yeah.
How far away are you on that?
We just had to pass state inspection, but I got to do something with the battery. So I picked it up this morning, but they won't sign off on it until I get the battery portion fixed. So that's what I'm doing this weekend.
Where do you live now, Jeff?
I'm in Western Maryland. I'm about an hour west of the DC metro area.
Okay.
Yeah.
My college roommate and best friend was president of Anheuser-Busch, and when InBev bought him, he now owns 8 distributorships, but his Chesapeake beverage there, he moved to Maryland outside of Baltimore and has stayed there and loves it. And so when I come up, I always hit him up. And
3 seconds, guys.
All right.
Well, you can continue. The conversation, Mark. Sorry, just get a little interrupted.
Right.
So when you come up to Maryland?
Yeah, I do. I always see him, and he still has a place in North Carolina and makes it down. And in fact, he thinks that he's like, hurry up with automotive. We need this in beverage from the time the things of my places get on the truck, off the truck, what happens. He's like, we have a real process challenge with moving Anheuser-Busch products around. And so he sees a big utility there.
Well, I'm sure as we get into exactly what you're doing, people will really start to realize the potential this has everywhere.
It's almost scary.
Yeah, it's funny. There are so many industries. I just can't believe automotive is a little late to the game on having a computer vision solution, because it seems that in a lot of the verticals, I'm surprised beverage does not, but a lot of the verticals, experts in that space have gone out and said, hey, here's what we need on our camera app.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's a little more clear for some of the other industries, especially the smaller purchase industries. Like you had mentioned Home Depot when we were talking yesterday, and I know we're stealing something from the show right now, but that just made a lot of sense to me, because like if you have a camera and can see a hole on one of the aisles, or somebody spilled something or who knows what, can alert somebody and get that handled. It makes total sense there.
Yeah, it's everywhere. The people that have reached. There's a few verticals that don't have a good hold. We've had some restaurant owners come and say, "Hey, I really need to know how it's turning and or the water's getting filled and I've got to capitalize on this 3-hour window to get all these tables moved 3 times, and it's a challenge." Some verticals just have it nailed. I mean, Chick-fil-A's got an incredible system to move theirs through with the cameras there, and some have just put a lot of time and focus in there and money.
So do they use the setup like what you guys offer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very similar. Now it's a lot easier process flow. There's not all the moving parts in a car deal or a service transaction, and their facilities. Facility consistency is the real advantage that most big companies that did this themselves and invested in their own applications, they were able to go a lot faster when you're not looking at, all right, we've got 100 stores here that have 40 different configurations of traffic flow.
Yeah.
So,
well, we've jumped right in here and probably a little beyond. Why don't we take a few steps back and one, for those who don't know who Mark Queen is, and I don't know who you are if you don't know who he is, but for those of you who don't know Mark, can you give us a little background on who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I had, following out of law school, I clerked for someone very close with Reynolds and Reynolds and got introduced there and started my career at Reynolds and Reynolds. And left to pursue a DMS idea for the boat and RV industry, IDS. And we were small, based here in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I still live. But we were fortunate and grew very well with a good dev team. And when we got to around 500 boat and RV dealerships, including Bass Pro Shops, Marine Max, et cetera, we were purchased by Brunswick that owns Sea Ray. And at that time, I met a couple that had a marketing company, a cookie marketing company for automotive. They had a great base of, over 1,000 car dealers.
I forgot it was all about the cookies. That's right.
Yeah, it was fresh beginnings. And so I met them. They wanted to start a CRM system. There were a couple out there that we all discussed before, talking about the good old days of Higher Gear and Autobase. I think we're the only 2 out there. So we had the first web base. And as you mentioned earlier, I'm sure it was a jab, but I'm guilty on the eLead name. It's a terrible name, not very catchy. But it was meant to be, internet lead man, internet web based. So I was the first there, and that was a long 18-year journey as the target kept moving from a glorified digital work planner to print out for sales reps to a desk log to desking and a call center and then text and BDC and service CRM. And so something new, data mining every year. But we were purchased by CDK in 2018. And following that, my collaboration with some dealer groups and with a lot of our core team at eLead and a lot of new folks on the technology side led to the genesis of this venture.
And what is this venture?
Yeah, this is the smart camera venture, the computer vision, SkaiVision, computer vision, the mix of art and science of teaching a camera to do data input, to recognize patterns, and to help modernize and increase efficiency is something that's not new to the general public. A lot of verticals, to continue our off-cam conversation, have gotten really, really good at it. So we are humbly attempting that to apply that to the unique and more complex beast of automotive sales and service transactions and security theses. So when you look at how at some places they have a vendor that's worked 6-7 years to get really good at, and we're in contact. We're part of an incredible organization, the Edge and Vision Alliance, and it's really a consortium of computer vision companies that are dedicated to a very socially responsible use of computer vision and collaboration. An incredible mix of people there teaching. But if you look at some, like we talked about retail, Banana Republic has a vendor that just for Banana Republic's, even color coding all product and having all shelves uniform and all spaces of retail uniform and not that big, to do what they needed to do to increase efficiency was not simple. And so when you think about a dealership and applying that, it's much different, but a lot of similarities though exist. When you look at what big retail uses in terms of, hey, they're really good now, the AI better than the humans were at sitting and looking at the camera feeds for shoplifting or theft or loss prevention. What they do applies to security of dealership to a large degree. When they look at unassisted or unattended customers on site and alert their employees, it's a lot like our not greeted in service or sales problems that to solve. And if you look kind of at their, hey, no product on a shelf, let's alert, we're leaking money. It's a lot like an empty stall in service and us doing stall and rack utilization and efficiency pieces. So there are some similarities, but there are probably more differences with automotive than the bigger world's computer vision applications today.
Very, very different level of theft.
Yeah.
How did you run into this idea? Was you were just looking at other verticals and you was like, oh man, we should apply this to automotive and then just stem from there?
Yeah, on the bigger end, we really asked a pretty good swath of dealer groups, hey, what would you like our team to do next? And we don't want to try and build a better version of a widget that isn't very compelling to you to improve or make a switch to. So what would you want? If you could wave a technical wand, what would you have appear? And the dealerships overwhelmingly indicated that our industry or the car biz dealership business is just tech fatigued. There is too many applications, too much interaction with the applications by employees and customers that deprecates and hurts our timelines and transaction cycles. So we were asked if you could eliminate some of that, if you could really shrink some of the things that we get criticized most for as far as usage of time of our customers, we would like that a lot. And if you could find a way to take data input off our employees, we understand that we are partly to blame by telling you CRMs, we need to know every time, did the demo occur? Click here. Did the TO occur? Did the customer get their tire options? We need that data. But if there's an automatic way to collect that data without putting that burden on the customer and the frontline employee, that would really appeal to us. And as we started looking at different uses of artificial intelligence, because that has been a hobby of a lot of of my development team for a long time, was for many years AI. But when we started looking at the different flavors, one that caught us in particular, computer vision, we had a former team member that showed us how a large retail box had increased massive efficiency and how COVID had really fast-tracked their implementation adoption of a smart camera system, and how that had paid off in net profit and employee count. And we saw that, and we took that back to some dealer groups and said, a smart camera, yes or no on appeal? And they all said, yeah, that's fascinating. We never thought of that. We all have camera systems, because that's really the backbone of what we're doing, is that a private business, you can't operate without knowing. It doesn't matter if you're Target, Macy's, or who, or ABC dealership. You need to know, did the vehicle theft, did it get stolen? Did that person steal it? Yes or no? Did we dent this customer's car? Yes or no? Or was it here when they got here? Was were they really here for the 3-hour oil change or no? Do we get it done in an hour? What's the fact there physically on video? And then, hey, for other things like fraudulent, did this employee or customer really fall and injure themselves, or did they look both ways and lay down and scream? We need to know. So a source of truth with the camera, the fact is that in private businesses, cameras are a necessity. It used to be a toss-up as to whether you wanted any or you wanted some, but it's as the camera, we can look at the vehicles coming off the line now, more or fewer cameras on them, and are we using the cameras on the vehicle more? And it really applies the same to businesses as well. So a lot of other verticals had decided that if we're going to have the camera in the private business is a lot different than in public with, street lights or police, law enforcement putting LPR cams in different places. There's all different privacy expectation with the IT doctrine when a customer comes to any retail box for service, that there's really an obligation for the vendor to know factually some source of truth there that relate to camera networks. So a lot of verticals decided since we're going to have these, we're going to have capital investments in cameras, we would like them to help modernize the experience for our customers and turn things into a positive, and for our employees. And so how do we do that? And that was really, as that carried over into a lot of high level people at automotive groups, but when it goes down into the store and you really see the applications, that really unlocks where are the real problems lying that we can assist today, and how does, in each store's kind of version of that application can vary. And so it's been a real challenge to decide, here is the order that we're going to prioritize and roll out feature sets on.
I'm curious about the variances. Are those caused by, say, store layouts, or is it more of a people thing that varies the different use cases here?
It can be. It's not as much as we thought it might be franchise type differences or geography of stores, but more it is focus of that particular dealership or dealer group on what they consider the net profit worthy, the real fun, what they consider the fundamental blocking and tackling that has to be done, that's non-negotiable. And it can be, for example, some groups, when they think of, if they say, hey, I want a Ring app, I want it to be light, I don't want any data input, don't want tasks, but I do want the cameras to do work. And when I think of a Ring type app, that if I've got one at home and I set it up to do 2 or 3 things, there are 2 or 3 things that if it had AI and not just motion detection involved with it, there are 2 or 3 things I'd want. And for some dealers, that may be, I get irritated that constantly I've got to take 5 minutes and see who parked that vehicle there, blocking this, facing the wrong way, that has bottlenecked us a little bit. And if the camera could tell everyone that, and I just shoot out who's this, and it gets handled without me going and wasting 5 minutes here, or it's a big deal to us when something sits too long and we don't start a car and it doesn't move for X number of days. It can be that simple that they want their app to detect. Or if there's, and then there's a lot that are, the ones we've migrated to are the universal, not necessarily the one-off pet peeves as much, but the universal revenue generating or inhibiting activities.
What are some of those?
Yeah, two big ones that we've been asked to do that the three of us have talked. I mean, we go back. Jeff, we met in
Way back.
2003 or two. Yeah, I mean, I think you were with Brandon Younger at Mercedes-Benz of Hagerstown, and we installed eLead. And when I look at the challenges there, and Alex with Checkered Flag when we met, and what you were doing with the ADP CRM that was unique there and highly utilizing those. There's a lot of deja vu, in fact, with early days of CRM to what this is becoming. It is now what it will be and what it is now. The immediate uses the immediate pain points that we've been asked to address are when you look at transactions, a dealership, almost every dealership, most of their at-bats each day come with express maintenance. When you look in terms of what transaction they performed at the highest volume, it wasn't they didn't sell more vehicles, they didn't do more heavy work, it was more express service. So the time involved there and the retention associated with it, we've been asked to lean in very heavily to express service. And service managers there are a lot of service managers out there that are very focused on getting better with express service and not losing as many customers to independents or other points. The other is vehicle acquisition has been such a big deal the last couple of years that we've been asked to automate a lot of the vehicle acquisition activity. And now it's really flowing into a lot of transparent things that we looked at, that the customer wants to see certain alerts and visual peeks behind our curtain. It's now, there's a whole usage set of where this is headed towards customer transparency.
Well, step me through that for a second. So you're saying, with vehicle acquisition, someone brings their car in for service, it goes through your system, the cameras, and that brings up two questions as well. What you're saying is the camera is able to recognize that customer coming in, that particular car, and it just so happens you've programmed it to say, hey, we need more of this specific vehicle, year, make, model, so we can get them back on the lot. And so the AI technology within the camera is able to pick up on all that and then automatically send a text to a salesperson or a manager?
Text directly to the customer, an opt-in
Okay.
to the customer to go through, and we can use any deliveries for as far as valuing that. Now we do have to set the camera up to, hey, is this a vehicle that meets the need this month? It has to be able to recognize that, and it does have to be able to ingest any type and deliver any type of pricing associated with each vehicle type. So robust APIs there, and same with the delivery, whether their delivery system or they're using us to update the customers with the delivery system. But it needs to be in a first of all, the key is that we're not delivering that unless the customer's physically on site. They have a current business relationship and are currently physically there at the dealership. And we know that and can pick up on that. And then the fact that we're doing it in a personalized one-off, not a mass type delivery, and that we are doing an opt-in with it and and an offer to purchase, not a solicitation with it. We've definitely studied a lot of what the other apps that customers like and that get zero heat on, that they're not subject to TCPA sharks going out and looking for, hey, you bothered, we're going to sue because of you didn't do this legally. So buttoning it up legally, having the camera in the mix helps tremendously with that. Same with updating customers on what they're doing. The vehicle acquisition piece, as far as reducing the friction points, no matter how aggressive or unaggressive a store is, with service to sales in terms of, are they pounding the customer with phone calls or messages before they come in? Are they cold greeting them? Are they having advisors? Are they trying to get advisors to TO them to good candidates, no matter if they have dedicated teams or don't, no matter how aggressive or unaggressive they are? We've seen that some customers are just going to turn off to or escape whatever process and systems being used at the store. However, the fact is the customer lives in their phone primarily, and how they prefer it is a very subtle reach out to know, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And if you didn't have to deal with a human to get the ball rolling with this, would that appeal? And then a large number of customers, it does appeal. And so when you put in the camera with the offer, there has not been a scenario yet where we have not been able to increase the vehicle acquisition rate. And when you look at the overall numbers, there'll be one-offs here and there where a dealership's customer base is half as susceptible to raise their hand as another in a same geography that are hard to pinpoint. But there are absolutely, the customer prefers that, and the service people prefer that to having sales in their domain physically as much. And the sales people of today's that we're employing today prefer that type of shoulder tap to a lot of cold introductions there. So we are noticing that, really, without getting too much in the minutia, we're seeing a consistent 3 flavors of vehicle acquisition departments at stores and approaches that they have, and have adapted this to plug into all 3 in the way that they want.
You mentioned the cameras. Does a dealership need to go out and buy a bunch of new cameras, or can you tap existing cameras?
Yeah, that the cameras piece. Let's see if I may have frozen there. All right, yeah, the camera piece was a challenge, because when you look at most modern big box retail, they do have edge cameras, very expensive, low end $10,000 up to $25,000 a piece at a couple big retailers that are using really good edge cameras that do all the compute on the camera. And there are big,
that, like, you can zoom way in, and they're like maybe 4 and 8K footage.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, those edge cameras, you can run the models directly on the camera. Now, we both know how many dealerships are going to go out and buy 50, $25,000 cameras. Not going to happen. Right. So what we've done is adapt a methodology. Our process is to use the existing camera system in place. And as long as you don't have 14-year-old analog cameras, as long as they're IP cameras, we can use them. And some of those, like you said, we don't need a very good camera at all to paint a region of interest and show if there's congestion here, or if vehicle delays occur here or there. But for some, like you say, if you can zoom in, if you're going to have to get enough detail to know, was a customer greeted or not, or did a walk around occur or not, 4K camera is going to be preferable. But as hardware costs come down, that camera now today is $200 or $300. But if you're going to do long range, like we've had stores that say, hey, for aesthetic purposes, our owner only wants us to put this exit camera on the roof line camouflaged up here. And so you need to be able to zoom and hit it from, 500 feet. Yeah, you could be looking at a really good 25x optical zoom, $800 camera for that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done anything with the Unify or Ubiquity camera systems?
Yes, they have a stream that we can feed off of, the Ubiquity, the Verkada. We haven't found a camera type yet, unless you're going to go buy a camera that you're going to say only has one stream and we can only use it for one thing, and that's not the majority of vendors out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I use the Unify system at my home, and yeah, that was very affordable, and continues
Yes.
to get less and less. Like I got 1080p cameras. I'm thinking, just a couple $100, get the 4K ones
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
They have come
that
down.
is, and we're really trying, because when you look at a primary challenge, the typical dealership installs our system. They um, will tap into 8 or 10 of their existing cameras for things they want us to do, and then they'll end up wanting to add another, call it 2 to 6 additional cameras on average. Occasionally, stores will see utility and say, "Hey, I want my entire shop. I want one camera per 2 racks, and I want to know exactly, what's going on with efficiency at a very micro level." And some stores have gone in and put 20 cameras in. It's very rare when we install it now. And then some stores we go into, they already have it. There's 130 cameras there. They already have everything covered. We can plug right in. They're on top of their camera game. So it's all over. But the typical store that goes in and pops a couple in, you're really looking at the today the electrical and then the data point to point. Having internet to that camera and electrical to that camera. What we've been experimenting a lot with are either Wi-Fi cameras or solar LTE. The hardware outlook for dealerships on cameras is going to improve a lot in the future in terms of being able to now most dealership groups want us on the same subnet as their other cameras. It's already isolated from DMS and CRM for security, PI purposes. Want us on a separate subnet, but being able to come in and put a solar LTE, pop 12 cameras in a week and go. I mean, those days aren't here, but they're coming.
Yeah,
Right around the corner.
yeah, it's super easy, and yeah, I can't get over how inexpensive these things are getting now too. Yeah. So speaking of costs, do you mind sharing roundabout what
Sure.
your software costs?
Yeah, we had some pretty strong input that we needed to, that although they did want this type of application, that we needed to keep it. A lot of groups, if it's something's under $2,000 a month, then GM has autonomy without going to other levels, and that doesn't pop up on the quarterly cut call with the CFOs as much. So we have been at $17.95. All you can do, you can plug in, one box plugs in up to 32 cameras, and you can and everything that we do and will do, we've had a flat $17.95. We've negotiated lower with some dealer groups and OEM projects that we're doing right now to get that down even further. And then, so on a cost perspective, typical dealership will need to plug in, again, call it 3 or 4 cameras. And that's probably around $5,000 to do that if they want additional cameras, because a lot of stores say, hey, with or without you, we need to have overall air traffic control. We need to know at the exit and entrance, the perimeter, at the curb cut, when people come and go. It'd be great if, like, you could marry it to the DMS. We know what were they here for and what kind of job did we do for them when they were there. But regardless, we've needed to beef this up. The typical store we engage with says, hey, we've needed this, and we've either service managers asked for it or GM, but we've never really done it because we don't have time to spend looking at the camera feeds. That's wasted time, and so there was really no way to monetize that or get a return on it. So typical dealership may make a small investment in upgrading their camera game a little bit. There are 2 flavors of our AI box appliance. There's the large GPU, like I said, that'll hook into up to 32 cameras. That's $6,000 once shipped and on site. That's come down a couple grand in the last 2 years. We see that coming down as GPU, as like you say, as hardware gets better. We have another really good factor of that will plug into 10 or 12 cameras and do what most dealerships want to do with this, and it's only $1,700 on site one time installed. So those 2 pieces, along with the monthly, we've tried to keep all 3 components so that that price would not be the barrier to entry with a store.
Well, we've got another price question from the audience here. So John Singa is asking, has there been any consideration for a lease to own or monthly SaaS subscription, including the updated camera tech, if the existing tech at the dealership won't hack it?
Great question. And yes, we have looked, we do, by the way, it is an annual subscription. It is a SaaS subscription to our services. A lot of stores, they don't really need any cameras or any tech with it. But you're right. If a store, we have had store groups that have said, hey, if my average store is going to come in, need this box and call it this camera, can you just put me on a lease that includes the camera tech, and that you handle that, and we can do that. And as rates go down, I think that will be a very appealing model for a lot of dealer groups. So yes, we are packaging that now.
Yeah, I could see where I'm big time into cameras. Like I do photography as a hobby, so it's amazing how quickly the glass is getting better. The processors in the cameras are shrinking and doing insane things with light now. Like you could put this tiny little thing in there and just capture so much. So it would make sense to not have to ride the continual hardware upgrade train and be able to just rent it, basically.
Yeah, we think, hopefully renting GPU in the cloud will get more. Now that $2 or $3 grand of what dealerships want to do with GPU in our application would be cost prohibitive. But as that comes down, we will eventually be just a full cloud solution for all the compute on site. They have with some groups have said, hey, that'd be great if you just eliminated your box, your AI appliance completely, and we're in the cloud. But when you look at what it takes to run all that, I mean, right now it's just we're cloud-based, encrypted at rest and in transit on the app itself, and what the snippets that come off of the you may look at 100 hours of camera footage and get 3 things that matter to that store that come off of that, but they want the crunching done on site for security purposes. And but others would like us to be completely cloud-based, and we will be.
Yeah, so it's not you got the Graham Leach Bliley covered.
Yes. Yep.
Safeguards and all that fun stuff. So on the legal side of things, like you are capturing people's faces, identities, maybe seeing paperwork, who knows what. And I know a lot of what you were just talking about covers some of that, but is there any more to it that, you've been asked by CFOs or lawyers or anything?
No, we've had in-depth, I mean, legal, when you look at with some OE and large dealer group and public processes that we've gone through on that side, there are applications that other large retailers use that absolutely have a large facial recognition and geometry component that they want to it. We have made the decision not to do that. Therefore, all the faces are blurred in the app and in the resulting alerts in the application. And we don't think that a good thing about automotive is, do you really need to know it was Jeff or Alex? But the car deal took 5 hours. The oil change took 3 hours. You need to know the process breakdown. You need to follow the person in the vehicle, and we can do that with an anonymous hash. And that's what we do, is we assign an anonymous ID to the vehicle and to the customer, where I don't need to know your specifics in order to do that. And so what we've done is kind of reduce it down to, hey, worst case, our environment got breached or our box on site, the dealership, they might see customers wandering around a service lane with no names associated. Same as if their current camera system got breached. That there's not really a big risk factor to that, and that's we have had though groups ask for and we've told them that if and when we do that, it'll be a strict opt-in with the customer. The customers will have to opt in to a recognition process, which, as the groups have pointed out to us, many do. At Delta, you're going to opt in to the facial to get through to the short line a lot of times. At least I do, and many do. So they believe that if the customer was going to save enough money and time and have enough of a VIP experience there, that they would opt into it. But we don't allow that opt-in at this point. We don't do any recognition or association of any of the visual AI to customer employee specifics.
Well, it sounds
it's
like
been that way because if you do look at the vendors that do employ that do want to know who you are, and part of their major sales is they want to be able to serve you up the right ad at the right place, the right geo, and they need to know that's Alex Snyder. And where we see is that when we've done all the research, that there are 7 jurisdictions currently where they can't do that and employ that. They've got to do a macro version of their application, not a micro. And that's a ever-changing piece of the legal landscape. But again, the big your question on the overall legal, again, with customer being on site, a lot of different things you could do with, say, on connected vehicle data that you could do physical on the premise in a current business transaction that you maybe not be able to do out in the wild. So we think that on-site piece is big. The whole, we're big on the opt-in piece, big on the making sure that we are dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's legally with communities to do that should as a practice. Do maybe some compliance things they're not doing. For instance, in some states, a few states, very few, if you're going to have a camera at your dealership, you technically need to have a certain size placard that says video surveillance is taking place at this business, and dealerships don't and they haven't needed to, because it's not really a vulnerability legally for them that could be exploited to any real degree. So, but it's still technically, we tell them you need to do this and adhere to it and sign that you're going to do this. And we think it's a best practice really for dealerships to have on their appointment forms, on their scheduler, on their repair order invoices that, hey, you may be given the opportunity to opt in to a status updates on your vehicle. But we think that should be covered in a double opt-in, a multifaceted approach. And we think that we should be able to, the big thing is, we've seen in computer vision, is you cannot be rigid. It can't be you're doing it through our app. Our whole app is built on a very robust API layer. And that's a big part of our, just our DNA, is that you need to do it how that dealer group needs it. If they are using, and thus when you look at all the integrations we've done and look at the, all the great vendors out there that we integrate with, the CDK Reynolds and Cox applications, along with anything from, got a few off the cuff, Dealer FX or My Karma or AutoHub or VinQ or Traction or any. We have a very, very open data philosophy that if it's going to be secure and it's going to be approved and it's a part of that dealership's current ecosystem, a lot of applications want our source of truth, want the video data metrics in there of certain things of, hey, how often is this occurring? What time of day? What days of the week? They can use that in there. And they can use it for the employees to reduce data input. I mean, who wants to have to click in that so-and-so has arrived for service or for sales? They did all this work on a digital retail app, put in the trade they're bringing in, and then your camera could identify that. You don't want someone to greet them VIP. There are very few that say no. We'd rather have to go up and ask for their phone number, ask who they are. So you've got to integrate with all those CRMs or applications they're checking people in with, in order to get the goal accomplished of reducing the transaction time. So we think that it should be an open exchange of you can put in and you can take out, but it needs to be secure and it needs to be, how that particular dealer group wants it done.
Makes sense. Had some ideas on that front we could talk about later.
Okay. I'm sure you do. You two both come up with a lot of good ideas over the years, and since it's a new one to you, and that's really, again, the ideas coming from the dealer groups is the whole key. That's what's driven our map so far. If we had to make the decisions on what this does right now, we'd probably be completely lost. But having dealership people are extremely smart, and we know that there is zero substitute for the human eye and the human brain. And the whole problem at a dealership is those eyes and brains can't be more than one place at a time, and yet often they need to be 5 places at a time. And so if we could be that for them and give them what they needed to see on enough transactions, then they know how to adjust the process accordingly, and they know how to decipher whether their process is having its intended result or not with the customer.
What are some ways dealerships are coming up with in order to help monetize using the camera system?
Yeah, it's crazy because when we look at this whole smart space, you hear this term smart space all the time in our computer vision area. And going back to, I don't know the last time you were in an NFL stadium, but most NFL stadiums have a great smart space approach. Their camera network talks to each other. They can see, hey, vendor needs to go here. We've got jam ups at this entrance and need more here. And they, to make the customer experience better at the game, they use great visual AI in most cases to do that. And so when you think about a smart space approach to the customer, modernizing it, the idea is we're starting something next month called the SkaiVision of the month, because we really get a great one per month from the customers. I think the first one was, and to give proper credit, I believe it was Mercedes-Benz of Plano asked us, they said, hey, our EV charger, do you need, and a lot of dealerships tell us, hey, being pressured to get one or get a second one. And do we need a second one? Are we utilizing the one we have or what have you? And so they had the idea of, hey, if we have a camera that's in view of that, we do, could you have your system look at when a vehicle's on there too long or when no vehicle's on there, and let us start getting our hands around how efficient we are, whether it's just employee vehicles sit there on it too long, whatever it is. And that they came back and said, hey, you've got a great this has been extreme help to us. And that's something we never would have thought of if the dealership hadn't come to us and said, hey, in the future, EV related equipment usage needs to be something that there is concrete data around, not guesswork. It's too expensive. So another SkaiVision we had from a dealership that we're acting on the dev team was, hey, with your system now, I can look on my phone, I can look on my app version of your app and see, wow, we're doing some really amazing, not just RO opened and closed within 50 minutes, but the customer was in here and out of here in 45, 50 minutes for this oil change or what have you. On the times when we are really crushing it, we would like to be able to send our reputation management link or send the Google review or Facebook link to that customer saying, hey, we did you solid, please reciprocate. But we don't want to invite the heat on the one that was 3 hours here. And sometimes we are doing that. So it's been the dealership sonar system will have the ability to increase positive customer review based on the positive job they're doing, which will in turn make them better and to have that outcome more, we believe. Another one,
you could almost use that in reverse. lot of reputation management, they, like especially around car dealerships. They're so good at it. They're too good. Every dealership's got these high ratings, and they're unbelievable.
You got to have the low stars make it, and the
Yeah, so
reaction
maybe you
to
find the
those
one
and
that was
jumping
there for
on those.
6 hours and say, "Yeah, we're going to get a bad one here.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
send
and
that
then
one off."
but hey, let's repair it in advance of inviting that, and let's have it, So
Yeah.
you're right that there in reverse works very well. I don't know a whole lot about RepMan, but that makes sense to me. The another piece that's been big is that we have been asked by the service team to have a big monitor that faces into the drive and keeps everyone just a visual point of reference that, hey, here's who has arrived, who's supposed to have come in that has not. Here's who is early, late. Here's who's in now. Ding, ding, ding. This one just pulled. We got 30 seconds till they pull in here now. Know their name and greet them correctly. And that whole modernization of the VIP greeting and being able to pre-write a large parts of the RO based on that first capture of the vehicle. And no, we had a dealership say, hey, I want to know if I plug you in. I've been talking to our OEM, and if you complete this certification, if we can let you know that there's a recall on that, say the customer shows up, no appointment, there's a recall on that vehicle. Do we have the part or not? We want through your DMS integration, you to let us know, do we have that part right here or not? And should we offer that fulfillment of that recall to that customer right now? Is that going to be a positive thing for us and the customer? So we think that you need to be able to have that type of map flow board for us to see how everything's flowing and give us a little visual representation of where all stuff's at for everybody to see. Just a big transparency board internally. And
Well, you could
and
be
that goes
external too, actually.
even
Well, in a different way. My wife just had some surgery, and you're in the waiting room, and they have at the surgery center we were at, they have this board that shows the surgeon and then all the cases that are assigned to that surgeon, and then there's an identifier for your loved one that you're there waiting for or whatever, and you can see that they're in pre-op, or they're in surgery, or they're in recovery, and like, okay, don't run off and get lunch now, or whatever it is, which would be great to see like from
that's
afar as a customer of the dealership, like, where's my car at? Oh, it's still in the lot.
you.
Okay.
You
Yep.
just hit on a big. This has been almost to the dealer group. They've I mean probably 4 or 5 groups in meetings I've had have said, hey, we wanted to be able to do a Domino's Pizza Tracker type thing, but the software gaps and where we are, where the vehicle really is, may not align with that, and where the vehicle is in reality, physically and customer, with where the software clicks are. Has aligning those two is the reason that we're doing really deep integrations with some of the vendors in the space right now, that really see a knockout punch with having those two married. But for the customer benefit, the first meeting this came was the service manager at Fred Anderson Toyota, numerically, I think the #1 Southeast Toyota service dealer metric wise, had said to us, look at my GEM app. I can look at this and tell you there's no way I'd go in here today, right now at 9 a.m. Look how jammed up for the number of scans there are in there, swipes in there. But if you look typically, I could go on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. and it's going to be dead as a doornail. And that really applies to what they're doing with other apps. I've seen, they're going to make the timing now being put like in a Jersey Mike app of, hey, do I really want to order this and know I'm going to be waiting 2 hours, or is it ready in 15 minutes? It applies to a sports on the rare occasions I can get my teenage son to cut his hair. It would be as long hair. We look at the Sports Clip app and see that, like us, they don't book their capacity by the person checking in, how many they can check in. They book it by the number of people that are actually cutting hair, the techs that are there that day. and the capacity's booked that way. But you can easily look and say, "Ooh, I'm not going to that location by our house because it's running 45 minutes, where it's 5 minutes if I drive another 5 and I get in and out and it's empty." That transparency to our customers would help with our capacity is a message that we're hearing loud and clear from the dealer base, that we should, if a customer's got an oil change tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we are jammed up, we know that we are filled on all our appointments, plus we build in something for occasionally for walk-ins, and that's going to inevitably, Murphy's Law is going to hit us with a bunch of walk-ins. Then they need to know what they're looking at there, and they need to know, hey, but right now when you've left work at 5:30, if you came in, we have you out of here in 30 minutes, no problem. And that capacity shift with when the techs are going to traditionally, for days of week and times of day, have less work that we need to feed them, and we marry the customer with that availability, but it's always in flux. So it needs to be correct visually that day, that week, and in tune with the visual AI. But we do think that we'll have a plug-in for schedulers and tools out there to marry that visual piece of the tracker, and whether they want to use our tracker all the way through it, or they want to use another vendor's tracker and have us come in and marry that reality from the camera in there as well. We're certainly not going to dictate that. I know that right now is the precursor to that. We're having a lot of success with, if a dealership has a camera, and a lot do on their car wash facility, if the customer's car is going through the car wash, they can text them the notification, "Great news, you're almost out of here." And the customer seems to calm down for that last 20 minutes of the visit when they see visually, this is not just where, pictures worth 1,000 words of text is a very true statement.
Yeah,
And
especially if you can
that's
send
my
them
vehicle off the rack or going through there. That again, that look behind the curtain type thing that they don't have. That's our primary challenge. If you do go, because I mystery shop, independent service shops, and I won't name the one, but I sat in my car recently 54 minutes, but I sat in my car and I knew where I was the whole time with the 54 minutes, including from when I waited for the two in front of me to go through, because they were fairly busy. But no doubt we've got some massive advantages over that, and most people would rather get regular maintenance done if they had that kind of assurance that they weren't trusting us with their day, that this could turn into a 2-hour fiasco. And that's so we do think that there's a lot of that, like you said, that the reverse of that, the transparency to the customer, is going to have a big impact.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Transparency to the customer. Yep.
Yeah, that whole that's part of the smart space approach of modernizing everything for the customer. They want to be through quicker. They want transparency where we're at with this, and I think that that in terms of the of how a smart space might apply as we're going through the service now. Already pieces of this are being used in sales. As we look at the sales process and look at, hey, what are the common factors in the 1 hour Utopia car deal when they come on without having done all the digital retail? They come in, they're in and out in an hour, versus what was our 4-hour debacle? What happened during that, and what stars have to align, and what do we need to be centered on with those? And again, as long as cameras are in place and we can make it better for the customer, then why not?
Without a doubt. Seems like a no-brainer, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, you think that it's got to, again, it's a lot easier. We were joking before the show on the CRM and what's different and what's similar to back in the CRM days when when eLead came out in 2000. We aren't having to deal with those exact challenges. The challenges there were how do you get a sales floor to stop hoarding business cards and being their own business to entering it into a central data repository and having, work plans handed out or digitally or however, and how do you you get adoption and usage and people to input things. Here we've done the opposite. There is no data input. There's no training. The turnover doesn't affect it. The employees don't. If they get our app, the employees don't have to do anything else other than the managers need to look with the data with us monthly and know where the process adjustments need to occur and get with their teams. And they tell us, hey, the team's just kind of, it's a pep in the step app. Once they know we're focused on that, everybody starts driving towards that subconsciously. So they're different challenges, but with this, the big challenges have been that we are in the infancy of having what everyone wants in terms of mapping my flow pieces and knowing this vehicle, like we're developing right now a kind of vehicle fingerprint identifier, because the camera, even a not great camera, can pick up subtle color differences in two black Camrys that come in. A 2018 and 2020 are going to have two different types of the way the camera sees it in their colors and in the makeup and the position reckoning, so that we can say that is unique. But how do we map that traffic flow so that one camera is getting this and knows, okay, look for it here and get it here, and that whole multimodal, that's not something you can go get off the shelf. I mean, that's just painful. Again, that first thing we talked about, the customer greeted or not, that was 1.5 years to develop that one model, 1.5 years of dev with a lot of smart folks to get that. And you can't go there's no shortcuts. You can't go to a big, company and say, hey, have you got this that I could use?
There's no AWS for this yet, huh?
No, there's no. NVIDIA may say, hey, they've got some incredible tools, but when you go in and they see, whoa, apply that to a dealership space, and this, you're going to blow the AI's mind. And there's no all training for that need to get. So the challenges have been big, but the similarities in terms of people going, never thought about that, really, and not directly a CRM piece at the time. I remember back in, I think it was 2003, we were asked at the CRM, hey, a dealer group said, we want you to integrate with this Who's Calling app on the call tracking side. I believe it was Who's Calling. Now there's several great vendors in that space, but at the time it was the first. And they said, and a lot of dealers that we would say, they said, okay, we'll why don't we, if we're doing it for this dealer group, why don't we offer this integration we had to spend time building? Why don't we offer this product and do a rev share with this company? And the dealers we'd pitch it to would be a lot of, I don't know. If I'm going to record my employees' inbound and outbound calls, they're going to quit. I'm going to have a rebellion on my hands. And what would I do with the data? It's just going to give me heartburn. And what would I do if I listened to the call? And so but then you look at what really happened in reality in terms of stores getting better. What percentage of general managers today would run without a call tracking system? Very small minority. It'd be almost negligent to say you're good running blind. And so I watch the evolution of that and then see this and say, this is process tracking. This is activity tracking. And there will be a point, I believe, where it would be almost indefensible to say, I'd rather have an unintelligent camera network than intelligent telling me things, even if it's just 2 or 3 things that we want to get out of it, or maybe it's 20 things we want to get out of it. But I think that at some point, this this type of process analyzation would be extremely common. It's just not right now. So it's really a lot of the same pioneers in the space that are aggressive, and a lot of the younger leaders we see coming up, like the service managers that I see probably elevating in the space and going on to really big and great things. They seem to be coming to the forefront going, I want to help you build this because I need to get better. I need to know what my time to customer arrival to on that rack is, what the time off that rack to the car wash out of there, and they know it's whack-a-mole, that it can vary. you lose one person or one thing changes, and then process doesn't break overnight. I mean, dealership processes are extremely breakable, but they do so over a period of time. And that's where I see a lot of what we're doing and focusing on. Something we're very excited about is right now we're working with MSX on their training agendas, and why in 2024 you shouldn't have a human with a stopwatch looking at every phase of a process on a few transactions to see what needs to happen. It should be automated. It should be on 80%, not 8%. And when you see what they're doing with data and look at what we're doing with data and see the potentials of being able to come in and be the eyes and ears, because we've all had a trainer come in for some name a process in a dealership, or we focus what's an internal trainer or external effort or initiative, and we see that process just really improve, and we see the numbers improve and everything. And then what happens? It starts to eventually just go a little bit down. You lose one thing, gets out of whack or it gets out of focus, and then maybe they come back in, it goes back up again. But why couldn't there be consistency if we've got the training, the camera trained to be those eyes all the time? The consistency that we could provide. So we're really excited about the marriage with consultative and process training with this.
Like I said, it sounds like a no-brainer.
It's fascinating, Mark.
Yep. And thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yes, yeah. The awareness is our other probably primary challenge. I don't know if every dealer knew that, hey, we could come in and severely minimize the number of 3-hour. Well, first of all, we let you manage it, and you know what your best and worst look like by what times of day and what days, and how many times a mutually unacceptable transactions occurring to you and the customer. That, hey, no way. My first visit here, you had my one shot at my first maintenance visit. Of course, nothing was going to be able to be upsold in the vehicle. It's got no miles to speak of. But that visit comes in and takes a couple, 3 hours, not seeing the customer again. And if the dealerships knew that they could know that we could marry to their service system the camera view, even if it's just 2 cameras in and out, I'll be able to know that. How many of those are occurring, and then start to manage those down. That awareness probably only exists on a few hundred of the 17,000 dealerships out there that it's there. Same with the piece that you brought up earlier with vehicle acquisition and being able to plug into a system that they're using or fully take it all the way through ourselves, but be able to modernize and optimize that. How, aware with something new like this, you guys weren't aware of what SkaiVision was until we first caught it. And we know each other well. We've known each other for 3 of us have known each other for too long. I don't expose our ages, but we've known each other a long time.
Decades.
Yeah, there we go. Multiple decades we've known each other, and yet you guys had no clue what SkaiVision was until a couple days ago. And so I appreciate you having us on here, because you've got such a good big viewership that's gold to us, because it does let the people know. If we could just mind meld out to employees at all the dealerships, hey, this is being developed and this is here and this is what it does today. Here's reality. Here's what's coming in we're doing sprints every other week. And so it's changing every other week, but here's what we can do. If they knew that, we could get more of the superstars to come develop this with us and come up with more brilliant ideas constantly. Mm-hmm. And you guys, thanks for providing this type of forum, because your reach, I mean, and even internally, we're looking for, if we collaborate with a non-client employee that comes in and says, hey, I'm really good at service of this, and I have run lanes, and I've fixed, express, or I've fixed vehicle acquisition. those are people we want to hire. And so the visibility that you give us, we can't thank you enough.
We'll
Oh,
continue
absolutely.
to do so.
Appreciate it. If people want more information, want to get a little bit more details, what's your contact
Yeah.
and URL?
Yes, it 855 for Sky, FORSKAI. You can call, and then if you go to SkaiVision.com, SKAI VISION. If you go to SkaiVision.com, there are links there that you can set a time with us or send a message to us easily.
Awesome. Well, Mark, we definitely appreciate your time.
Ditto. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, gentlemen.
You as well. Take care.
Yes.
Okay. See you.